us. The title of the paper is Production Synergies and Cost Shocks, and it's joined with Jorge Tamayo from Harvard Business School. In this paper, we study cost shocks to production technologies and the way they pass through to market prices. This is an important question because financial instruments may not be always available to hedge shocks. In particular, in this paper, we focus on how production synergies affect market prices. To motivate our analysis, consider a simple Cournot oligopoly for homogeneous goods. Revenues depend on the market price, P, and the residual demand, DR, while costs are a function of how much is produced and of a potential shock to production. In this market, price is solved for the classic marginal cost over markup equation. So if marginal costs respond to a production shock, then prices will improve. The question we ask in this paper is, how can a firm hedge to such production shocks? For instance, a firm could sell QC units with a forward contract at price PC, leading to the following price equation. You can see that QC decreases markups, potentially mitigating price hikes due to such shocks. However, markets for forward contracts may not be liquid enough, and there is also evidence of a feedback loop from spot prices to forward contracts in energy markets. These issues may at least partially offset the gains from forward contracts. An alternative hedging strategy comes from production technology. If the firm has two production units, 1 and 2, but only one of them is shocked, then the firm can relocate production from the shock-producing unit to the other one. So production synergies offer a different way to tackle cost shocks that doesn't pass through elasticities, other things equal. We focus on these synergies in this paper. In particular, we focus on the Colombian energy market. Here, firms own technologically diversified generators. Each generator participates in an auction by submitting price and quantity. Importantly, hydropower generation represents around 80% of total energy capacity in Colombia, exposing energy firms to cost shocks during the dry season. The plot shows that during droughts, the share of hydro generation drops by as much as 10%. Weather shocks can therefore be seen as cost shocks under the lenses of the previous model. During droughts, price can increase even more than 10 times compared to their average values, and this is because generally hydropower generation is much cheaper than any other alternative technology, mainly thermal. We study the impact of costs on prices, both in a reduced form manner as well as in using a structural model. So we move then to our empirical results. We first show that there is an inverse relationship between the expected amount of water stored and willingness to accept in pesos for a kilowatt of energy. The plot shows how a hydrogenerator supply curve shifts rightwards with the expectation of high inflows of water in future quarters of the year. In particular, these generators increase production and thus for less pesos per kilowatt hour generated when they expect a future shock. Interestingly, the opposite is true for sibling generators. We say that a thermal generator is a sibling of a hydro generator if they are both owned by the same firm. The supply curves at sibling generators shift leftwards when a connected hydro generator expects abundant inflows of water and vice versa. You can see that the thermal generators produce less energy at the same price from comparing the two plots. We then put these results together. First of all, we note that spot prices are much lower when the total water in the system is high. Moving to synergies, we find that thermal generators connected to negatively shocked hydro generators increase production substantially, and they are responsible for a drop in prices of almost 30% during drought. However, this impact is asymmetric. Thermal generators linked to positively shocked hydro generators do not affect prices meaningfully during the wet season. And this is because their price bids fall often above the market price during the wet season. We then go further and we build, estimate, and simulate a model of a dynamic multi-unit auction to better quantify dynamic synergy. In the model, a firm chooses a price and a quantity bid schedule for each of its generators to maximize the firm's intertemporal profits. Here we report a stylized version of the value function because of time, but you can see that it is composed of the static payoff and the continuation payoff, which includes the transition matrix of the water stock. Our contribution in this setting is to provide identification in multi-unit dynamic options. This allows us to estimate marginal cost and the value function from the test water condition and to run simulation of the related dynamic Cournot model. At this point, instead of showing the cost estimates, which are in line with the engineering estimates for cost, we decided to plot the inverse semi-elasticity of the residual demand for the largest firms with hydro generator, as well as for the remaining firms without hydropower. The semi-elasticity is a measure of unilateral market power. The plot indicates that larger, more diversified firms command greater market power, greater markups. Our simulations are ongoing, and we'll seek to assess precisely this trade-off. On the one hand, we may want to incentivize larger firms with strong production synergies, thanks to a diversified production portfolio. But on the other hand, we may be afraid of the resulting increase in market power. So to conclude, this paper focuses on production synergies. An important policy result is that because of these synergies, standard policies forcing the dismissal of generators owned by firms whose generation capacity is larger than a pre-specified threshold may backfire. Such policies are currently in place in many countries, and Colombia is one of them. We focus on the Colombian energy market because of its abundant water resources, but given the political push for renewables and looking forward due to the size of the unused hydropower resources across the Western Hemisphere, we believe that our results extend well beyond Colombia. Finally, we also provide a new set of tools to analyze dynamic multi-unit auctions. The paper will be available very soon, and we take this opportunity to thank you for the chance to showcase our work, and we look forward to hearing your questions and suggestions by email. Thank you so much.